you.
Hi, my name is Chante Keith, and I am a two-time breast cancer survivor, a public health enthusiast and advocate, and co-chair of a wonderful organization called Breast Cancer Action. And I am with my wonderful, incredible co-pilot, Stacey, who will introduce herself.
Aw, thank you, Shantae. So hi everybody. I'm Stacey Strongaroni. I live in Brooklyn. I am delighted to be co-chair of Breast Cancer Action with this amazing woman underneath me in the video that I see. And I am a lawyer who works as chief of staff in a criminal justice and immigration org. And I also had breast cancer, just hit my 5-year remission anniversary. Okay, Shantae, let me ask you a question.
Yes.
Tell me, you got to breast cancer action before I did. So tell me a little bit about your story and how it brought you to breast cancer action.
Yeah, so I was first diagnosed with stage 2 invasive ductal carcinoma.
Me too.
And yes, right.
Lucky us.
Lucky us. We're a part of a very special club. Uh, no one wants to be a part of.
Nope.
Um, so yeah, in May of 2016, and interestingly enough, I felt like I was in the best time of my life in terms of career wise, social life. Thought that I was really healthy and was doing all the things right. And I found a lump on an interesting evening, what I thought was one of the best evenings of my life. I went to an amazing concert, and that evening I found a lump. And from there, I went to all of the appropriate healthcare professionals to get a diagnosis. And at that time, was feeling very afraid and anxious. And I know you know this, Stacey, when you're first diagnosed, the doctors throw so much information at you at one time. Um, the type of breast cancer and the stage and the treatment. And you have to make so many decisions, life-changing decisions in such a short time frame, that it was a very complicated time in my life. Um, but I found the strength to push through it, because all I heard the doctor say was that a year from now, you're going to be okay. And so I said, all right, well, then I'm down for this ride, and was able to get through my first bout with breast cancer. Having said that, when you're going through, you always look for community. You look for, people who have been through the process, to learn from, to get feedback, to get guidance, to compare notes. Like, did your doctor say this to you? Did you have to go through this level of treatment? You also look for hope, who has been in your situation that has, made it through to the other side, and I tripped up on breast cancer action. And it was introduced to me by this woman, Laura Hamasaka, who said, check out, breast cancer action, who's doing some incredible work, keeping in mind that I'm already in the public health space. And so when I looked at this bold, radical, truth telling group that was just not afraid to say the things that needed to be said, I was like, this is where I belong. And so that's how I came to breast cancer action, and really began the work with these incredible women to eradicate breast cancer once and for all.
Awesome. I'm so glad you found Breast Cancer Action because that's how we found each other.
That's how we found each
Oh,
other. Stacy, tell me a
sorry.
little bit about your story and how you came to breast cancer action.
Sure. So like you, diagnosed stage 2, triple negative breast cancer, which basically means the way I describe it is none of the new breakthrough technologies work on it. So they treat you with the really old and harsh stuff, super harsh chemo, surgery, and radiation. So that was back in uh, 20 17.
Mm.
Um, and actually quite similar to you, well, similar and different to you, Chante. I didn't feel like I was at the high point of my life. I had been working very, very hard since I was doing immigration in 2016. You can imagine things were busy. And I was feeling depleted, and I took this bucket list trip. I went to Hawaii for a month, which was a real extravagance for myself, with a plan to use that as like a break to then reset and kind of start living more normal now that the immediate crisis that I had been trying to help out with had ended. And it was my third day. I was in this remote Hawaiian village and I found this lump and I was like, what's that? Um, and I didn't even have access to a phone, and I didn't know what to do. Like, I was super stressed. Finally got a calling card and called my doctor. And she asked me a few questions, and she's like, "Look, like 3 more weeks isn't going to change your outcomes. So I don't hear anything worrisome. Just come see me when you get back." And so it was on my first day back, the first business day back from this like amazing trip to Hawaii, where this was just like hanging in the back of my head, where the tests and the biopsies and the rabbit hole of finding out I had cancer happened. And so that feels a little similar to what you described. Um, I agree with you on community. I think my doctors were great. Oncologists are amazing human beings who save your life. Hard stop, like, really appreciate that about them. Um, but they have a lot of information. They don't always have lived experience. And, I too found myself like reaching out to everyone I could find when I got diagnosed to try to um, just even understand, wrap my head around it. I remember that I used to think, I was like, this will be okay as long as I don't have to do chemo. I convinced myself I didn't have to do chemo because I was
Yes.
terrified of chemo. And
Yes.
then like a few weeks in, I find out I have to do chemo, and I'm like, all right, like it's funny, like what you just find this like strength that you didn't know you
Strength.
had, where like in the abstract, a year before diagnosed, if I was asked like, what would you do if you got cancer? I'd be like, I'd let it take me. I won't do chemo. And then like some survival instinct kicks in. You're like, give me all the chemo, give me all the drugs. But I do think one more point about community that I found interesting. So I was 39. I was 39 when I was diagnosed. So before mammograms, I mean, mammograms in your 40s is a whole thing, whether they work or not. But hadn't had a mammogram, and I was in this like donut where there's a great community for young breast cancer survivors. There's like the Young Survival Coalition, and I think they're 40 and under. And
Hmm.
I felt like a little too old to be there because their concerns were a little bit different from mine. But then any other cancer type support community type thing I could find was women in their 60s, and they were fantastic and lovely, but like didn't we weren't going through the same things. And so I did find it hard to find community. So I'll just name that. Last thing I'll say is, yeah, I think it was actually one of my early nurse navigators. I was in the Bay Area at the time, and she knew what I did. She knew I was an activist, and she's like, you need to look up breast cancer action. And I can't think of her name. It was Sue something, right? Like these people are angels. You meet them at the beginning of your
They
cancer journey. You're
are.
so bamboozled, and then you can't even like, I can't remember her name. I could probably
They
find it on Facebook.
are.
But this woman told me about breast cancer action, and I kind of forgot about it. I looked at some stuff on the website, but I was focused on like battling nausea, not activism.
Yeah.
But then a few years later, I came back to it and I just stumbled upon, I kind of stalked breast cancer action until I got a meeting with the ED, which led me to do a volunteer strategic plan facilitation for the group. And I remember when we were on the call and doing the icebreaker and everyone was talking about themselves, I was like, oh, these are my people. They're talking about the things I care about. Like I want to be involved in them and, kind of elbowed my way in over time. So really, really glad I found breast cancer action and all the information on the website, the campaigns, the ability to engage and take action on things that are meaningfully trying to prevent, to end the breast cancer epidemic, to really look with eyes wide open at the equity issues that that exist in disparities in treatment and care and outcomes. I just kind of knew I had found my home, and I met you.
And I met you. And it's been incredible serving in this capacity with you and being able to really take on just wrapping around the breast cancer movement in a different way.
Yeah.
Um, and so I just, going to fangirl for just a second because I just love your just approach to the work and just how authentic you are and how passionate you are, and how thoughtful you are in terms of the approach to the organization and the work that we do. So I'm just incredibly grateful to be in this capacity with you, Stacey. I know I tell you all the time, but I have to just say it. This has
Oh,
been a wonderful experience serving with you.
oh. Wait, are we supposed to be fangirling each other or fangirling breast cancer action?
I mean, I'll take it.
Okay, now I have to fangirl you though, so sorry. Um, I too am so surprised by our relationship. I think we just kind of got thrown into this role together because for lots of legit reasons, there were not people who were able to kind of take up the leadership role in breast cancer action. And what I love about working with you is, we're working on these really hard issues and it can be really triggering, right? When you've had breast cancer and you're like banging your head against a wall about like, what are we doing enough to
Yeah.
stop it? There's always laughter and love and stories and support. And so, in addition to just your fierce brilliance around public health and social change and what we need to do to end this epidemic. I also just love your laughter, your love, your Beyonce jokes, the way you always come in at the end and drop some knowledge that just, of course, that's what we're going to do. And I'm just such a fan of you, Chante, and I really enjoy working with you.
You're
Should we
funny.
fangirl on breast cancer action for a minute?
Yes, that will be great. Let's do that. Um, I Speaking of, I mean, I love breast cancer action. To your point, because we are tackling such um an enormous issue. I mean, we're undertaking a huge feat. And breast cancer is so convoluted. I always say that it's a powerful storm between economics and our environment and racism and power and sexism. And so those are some pretty large buckets that we're trying to really address in terms of fighting these systems of oppression against, marginalized communities who experience the most disparate impact from breast cancer. Um, and so I think for a question for you, Stacey, is how do you find the strength and the stick to itness to tackle the work that we're doing?
Hmm. I don't even know how to answer that because it's like the fact that I'm here and living and breathing and got to the other side of this thing. Well, not really, right? You never quite get to the other side of it, but the fact that I'm functioning, it's like, how could I not, right? Like once, again, super grateful for all the research, all the treatments, all the, the health insurance I had, all the things, super, super grateful. And, you know, uh, the type of breast cancer I had, triple negative, overwhelmingly hits young women and hits Black women and women of color. And it also happens to be the one that none of the treatments work for, or none of the new, less harsh treatments work for. Like, what's up with that, right? Like, I am a lawyer. I've been trained to navigate systems and advocate for myself. And I was lost, like so lost, at the beginning of my journey, all along the way. Um, and even now, uh, yeah, I feel so compelled to fight, for this issue, because I can, right? Like um there are women, many, many, too many, who have died. There are women who are, or people who are still struggling, still fighting. There are, people who, just didn't have it as easy as I did. I had health insurance. I had
Yeah,
disability insurance. I didn't get into financial ruin over this. I could
yeah,
have, I would have. um, so I fight because I can, and I fight because I didn't I didn't see enough fighting for prevention. There's so much great work going on about awareness, whatever that means. I, I mean, it means something. It did. It's had its day. There's a lot of fighting for awareness. There's a lot of fighting for research. There's a lot of fighting for treatment. Um, But what about what, like, really what's causing this? One of my pet peeves, sorry, and then I'll stop talking. One of my pet peeves, it's November as we record, it is now November. And in October, you'd go to these like seminars and they'd say, um, here are the ways to protect yourself against breast cancer. Eat green things, exercise, maintain a healthy weight, blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, yeah, check, 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 check. I've done all those things and I got cancer.
yeah.
Um, it's these individualized factors that popular culture is focused on and not systemic factors. Like, I don't know that the science is there, but like growing up next to a bus depot, or like for me, growing up near the largest landfill in the world in Staten Island, New York, I don't know if it caused my cancer, but it certainly couldn't help. And
Yeah,
like, we're
exactly.
not talking about that. And instead, it's like you feel like a failure because, like, maybe I didn't eat enough broccoli back in 1992. And so what I love about breast cancer action and what keeps me fighting is to really take a hard look um at the systems that could be causing cancer, and doing our part to clean them up. So
I love that because same, especially um there's there's one thing that I really love, and that's community. And then on the flip side of that, there's one thing that I really hate, and that's bullies. And so for me, bullies for me, industries like the tobacco industry, industries that profit off of the pain and suffering of survivors, and patients and their loved ones, to me just gives me the fuel to keep fighting. And to your point, my oncologist is incredible. My first oncologist retired. I know, but I have a really great oncologist now. Um, and as much as, I love my care team, I do know that they're focused on the treatment, not so much the prevention piece. And so when I would ask, a lot of my providers, like, what could I do to not show up here? They would never give me a direct, answer as to what, I could do to actively stay in remission. Or if they did, it was, the individual, factors. Well, eat better, um, lower stress, exercise, those type things. And we know that, with all of the things that we're holding in our personal lives and our careers, society wise, global wise, there's no way to avoid stress. But then, in terms of telling, people to eat better, but what if your neighborhood doesn't have access to fruits and vegetables? You tell folks to exercise, but what if your neighborhood doesn't have a sidewalk or a greenway or parks? You tell folks to um, you know, use products that may not have all of the toxins in them, but do folks have, the resources to purchase products that may be paraben free and sulfate free? Um, and so these are some of the things that, we um, talk about at Breast Cancer Action that I'm really excited about. Um, the reasons that keep me active and engaged, because I'm always up for a fight against any bully that comes my way.
I
Uh,
never want to be in the ring with you.
listen,
I mean, on your side, yes, not against you.
yes,
You're
exactly.
formidable.
Exactly. But it's, how do we tackle these giants that continue to get in the way of all of us having the best health outcomes that we possibly can have? And so I think Breast Cancer Action is one of those organizations that are just at the forefront of talking about these issues, raising awareness about these issues and concerns, and really wrapping around language in a way that I think is so forward thinking and innovative. Because I tell you, to your point, one of the things that would really bother me is to see corporations in October use the pink ribbon as a way to profit off of breast cancer, when some of the ingredients or some of the, additives that are in the product are known hormone disruptors. um, it's mind-boggling to me, and I tell people all the time, like, there's no problem with the color pink. I mean, if you need the color pink to give you hope or to help um, give you comfort or to give you the strength to power through, I mean, like, pink power all day. But I do have a problem with you using the color pink to profit off of breast cancer patients are suffering. and contributing to the harms that we see, or contributing to the factors that increase breast cancer in our communities.
Yeah. Why is all the cancer stuff so upbeat? Like, I want hope, but not hope like false hope, Like, it's
Mhm.
like, yeah, anyway, that's what I want.
So I hear
And
you.
that is
And it
so
is going to be okay.
because that is so interesting. I think that people want to cling on to positivity. And so that's one of the struggles with being a survivor, right? You want, sometimes you have to downplay how you're really feeling for other people, because it's like, well, how are you doing? You can't say every day I feel like it's a shit show. Like every day I feel like, you know what I'm saying? I'm barely hanging on. And yes, you may be tired, but I'm also tired because I have chemo brain. I'm tired. I have neuropathy. My joints are hurting. Though, like, those are like the real, conversations that you want to have, but you can't because people, you want folks to feel like you're just being upbeat and positive like all the time. And it's like, well, why does it have to be,
Yeah,
positive? Because at the end of the day, it's not all sunshine and rainbows.
it
Cancer,
isn't.
the process, you think? I mean, I am grateful for the days that there are, but there are some days where it's like it's really tough and it's really hard. And you do have things such as survivor's guilt, where you're looking at how you've you've so-called it made it through treatment and the process, but there are others who are still going through. And so you want to be, respectful and really wrap around those that are still going through, their process. And so that's not sunshine and rainbows all the time, you know. And so I get that. I get that. I will say during my journey, the things that I did cling on to in terms of hope is I my favorite word that year was forward, and I do this all the time. I don't know if you've noticed this, Stacey, about me. Like, oh, my word for this season is pause, or my word for this season is balance, kind of thing. But at that time, my word was forward. And I was like, okay, I got to get through because I'm looking forward to Jalen graduating from high school. Like, I have to be there for that. I'm looking forward to um, more moments with my family and my friends. And I'm looking forward to concerts and traveling. And I'm looking forward to doing, more meaningful work, but this time differently, like I'm always talking about striving for excellence, but now I'm like, not at the expense of my physical and mental and spiritual health. So, I would wrap around in terms of hope, just really, really looking forward. But just keeping in mind, to your point, that you got to give yourself grace and be patient with yourself, because some days it's not going to be all positive. Some days you do need to um, embrace the fact that this shit is hard
Yeah,
and we're navigating some really tough water sometimes.
yeah,
And so that's why I really do appreciate Breast Cancer Action too, because to your point, this is, we got the special sauce in this group. We're navigating these tough waters together, and that honestly gives me hope too, that I'm not alone in this journey.
yeah. Ditto, ditto, ditto. The two things I have to say are probably not for the recording, but I'm going to say them anyway because I have to say them to you. So I had no idea forward was your word during treatment. So when I was in treatment, it was in the time of Beyonce's Lemonade. And that was just like I would just put on my earbuds and I just blast it and just listen to it on repeat, repeat, repeat. And there's this moment, there's the forward song that like really painful, like whatever. And then it bursts into
Yeah.
freedom with Kendrick Lamar. And on my last day of radiation, they put on music in the radiation room and they're like, okay, what's your request? It's your last day. I was like, well, we have to listen to Lemonade. And I kid you not, as I finish, Freedom comes on. And I'm like, yeah, like such a dork. But yeah, so Forward, I totally hear you on that. So just had to say that. Um, in terms of what gives me hope, there is something related. So earlier you said something like cancer is like a storm.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, I picture cancer like a tsunami. It just like clears out your life as you know it. And the question is whether you're going to rebuild or not, like whether
Right.
you're going to succumb and rewind. Don't say that. The question is whether you're going to rebuild or not.
Yeah.
And so there's this image I have of like cancer and the experience of it kind of like clears the slate. And then you get to kind of choose how you rebuild your life, and you rebuild your life
Yes.
different and learning from that experience. At one of our breast cancer action art auctions, I got this poster and it's this beautiful picture of a wetland and it says be a wetland, and it's all about how the wetlands are this beautiful thing um, that filter kind of the bad stuff and hold the bad stuff for other people so that we can all be healthy and we can all be healthy. And so I think of I have that poster up, I'm looking at it now, and I think of breast cancer that way. Like we are people who've been there. Breast cancer action, we've been there and we're being a filter and we are trying to create something that will benefit all people. If we do our job right, if we are able to start a real conversation around environmental justice, around systems that create dis-ease, it's going to have an impact way bigger than breast cancer.
That's right.
And just the fact that we're coming together, we're putting our uh, heads down together and trying to come up with answers, that just gives me so much hope. Let me ask you a final question. We've touched on this a bit, but I'm going to ask you directly. Why do you invest your time, your money, your self into breast cancer action?
Yeah, I do it for a whole host of reasons. One being, I know we've talked a little bit about it before, but I invest time and money into breast cancer action because of community, because I really see this organization as a center for so many different things, information that can really help um, our patients, caregivers, and the like when it comes to um, the latest breast cancer research, especially when it comes to treatment and screening. Um, I also think about not only community, but policy. Who is really doing the work on the policy front to move the needle forward in terms of eliminating breast cancer disparities. And Breast Cancer Action is one of those organizations who is having the hard conversations, are amplifying, I think, the right messaging, and tackling the right bullies um, to push us forward in the policy space. So when I think about an organization that I see as being bold and, here go my favorite word, forward thinking, and pushing the movement forward, I think about Breast Cancer Action, and I can't think of a better organization to invest in when it comes to leading the fight against breast cancer. How about you, Stacey?
Yeah, I think what I love about breast cancer is action. I don't love anything about breast cancer, but I do love breast cancer action. Um, one of the things I love about breast cancer action is that, yeah, we're small and mighty. Um, the team, the staff, the leadership, have a really tight political analysis of what we need to do, and importantly, um, with that real intersectional lens where, um, we're not just looking at breast cancer, but we're looking at how different groups of people who may be marginalized in the system in various ways, like, let's center their experiences,
Mhm.
and let's think about how to tackle this in a way that is inclusive of everyone, because you know we all have such different um experiences, like, I do a lot of work in jails and prisons, and um the whole time I was going through treatment, I think, oh my God, like, this is really hard with an apartment and health insurance and ability to cook for myself. Like, I can't even imagine, like, how someone who's locked up might have to go through this, right? And so really thinking about how we solve this, how we beat this crisis, not only from our own perspectives, but also inclusive of and thinking alongside folks who just are having very different experiences, and usually way worse than I, at least speaking for myself, that than I had. And so um, I love that breast cancer action is doing that. And if I could, I'd give them all the time and all the money I have, because I really I really have a lot of hope uh, that an investment in breast cancer action is an investment in a better world, a world that is focused on health and wellness and universality of those things, right? Everyone has the right to live a healthy life. Everyone has the right to be well and free of cancer. And
Right.
I don't know how we're going to get there, but I know the breast cancer action is going to be part of that solution. And that's why I give, and why I hope that this Giving Tuesday, as we go into this um, holiday season, this season of giving, I hope that others of you watching this video out in the world consider giving your dollars or your time or even your eyeballs on Insta and all those other places to breast cancer action. We need all of us in this movement. We need all of us to be informed. And so we just really hope everyone joins us. I don't know about you, but on any given week, I have a friend in surgery, a friend who just got diagnosed, someone, you know, dealing with some other like unfathomable, like unpredictable cancer complication. And, it's like once you see it, you can't unsee it, right? Once you have breast cancer, once you get involved, it's like everything, everywhere, all around. And I think about all the life energy that has wasted in fighting this disease of like brilliant people who could be doing much better things with their time. um, it makes me really mad, and it makes me um, want us to like figure this out.
I appreciate that because I think part of my frustration is that I understand without a medical degree um
I
that
think they give us like honorary medical degrees after we go through treatment.
that would be nice, and I would show up to the ceremony because I feel like we've earned the degrees. um I do think, though, what frustrates me is that I know that we've made significant advances in treatment. Um, and while I appreciate that, it still frustrates me that we're not further along. And it frustrates me that there is this um there's this system that just keeps all of us in the cancer sphere or this rat race um to figure it out. I'll tell you a brief story. When I was first diagnosed, um actually both times I ended up having to do two surgeries because my surgical oncologist did not get clear margins. And my plastic surgeon the first time was like, hey, since you had a double mastectomy, I don't think you need to do radiation. And so I said, okay, bet. That's great. I don't have to do radiation. But then my surgical oncologist was like, well, no, you have to do, radiation because that's part of your plan. Mind you, I didn't co-sign on the plan. And so my plastic surgeon had to go in for the second time to remove um, what then was still 1 centimeter left of cancer cells because they didn't get clear margins the first time. But what he told me was that as a patient, when you are diagnosed, there's a cancer conference and all of the specialists are at the table and they're looking at case by case, like whatever system you're in, right? And they're looking at it case by case. And he said, I guarantee you at every single cancer conference, the oncologist they want to do chemo. The radiation oncologist, they're going to want to do radiation. The surgeon is going to want to do surgery. The hospitals just want to collect the money. So it's like, how do you, educate yourself and just, know that you're a part of this system once you're diagnosed. And without the knowledge to advocate for yourself and know the intent sometimes behind all of the treatment that gets thrown at us, including the stance on whether you should get a mammogram or not, um, is something that we all have to keep in consideration. And I'm not saying don't get a mammogram, people. What I'm saying is that those are, some considerations. Um, but I said all that to say it frustrates me that we're not farther along in terms of finding a cure, in terms of eradicating breast cancer. And what it makes me feel like is that it's always, always, always profit over people in every single instance. And so it pisses me off when there's been so many women, to your point, Stacey, since I've been diagnosed, that you have a friend of a friend or a close friend, they've just been recently diagnosed, and then you're having to walk them through their journey, because I do believe in, we didn't go through this for no reason. if anything, just to help, the next person who's been diagnosed through their journey. Um, but it does bother me that, I've gone through this thing twice, and I just feel like we're no further along to reaching a cure. But I also have this like nagging, just frustration and um, anger around feeling like it's intentional.
Mm,
That we're living in a society and living or navigating systems that want to keep us sick and
mm,
keep us oppressed in order to gain profit.
mm. That's real. Um, Related. I think that even if those folks in that room having a case conference have all the best intentions, so even if there wasn't profit involved, I read this great New York Times article, and it's about how oncology is and needs to evolve. That um, oncologists are so focused on keeping you alive, and that is, thank you.
Yeah,
Yes, I'm so
thank
happy
you
to be
for
here.
that.
I'm so happy my oncologist kept me alive. Plus, me and Beyonce got through it together too. But that they knowingly have a blind spot when it comes to survivorship. So the article was really about young. We're young, but like young kids with cancer. And oncologists are trained to think in like 5-year horizons. And so if you survive 5 years,
Yes,
like you survived. Um, but some of these treatments are just crushing and debilitating. And, they're talking about in the kids' context that, no one really knows what happens if you give certain treatments to someone so young and what it'll
right.
be like 40 years later, right? And um, I just think that's also like a next frontier of what we need to be thinking about, which is survivorship and um, and how the treatment decisions we make today impact people. And like, yes, it is about saving lives. That is like step one, hard stop. And I think there have been some great movements in this direction. I think that, what I was diagnosed with, if it was 10 years ago, they probably would have told me to do like a double mastectomy and blah, blah, blah. And now there's more, preservation and, where you only do a lumpectomy. Like, I do think the treatments are getting less and less. But as you said earlier, it's like, it's not fast enough. Like, you know, um, it's not fast enough. And how can we just like divert all these people from the oncology ward altogether?
Yeah. It made me think of something that came out in our meeting yesterday, and one of our board members was saying that breast cancer often gets lost in all of the just things that are happening around us. Um,
Tough times.
so yeah,
A lot going on.
there's a lot going on. There's a lot going on. Um, and I guess it just kind of gets back to when we talked about, why we invest our time um and money into breast cancer action is because we need organizations like BC Action to still raise to make noise about what's happening in the breast cancer space so that it doesn't get lost. um I tell this all the time to the folks I work with, but there are people that are counting on our organization to get it right. There are people who are going through treatment right now. To your point, survivors are living longer. However, with the treatment that we've gone through and still going through, hello to all my Lupron and anastrozole folks out there. The back pain and the joint pain is real. But I'm counting on this organization to still be the leader and at the forefront and making noise about how do we eradicate breast cancer, because it's so important and so needed. And so I just wanted to name that or say that.
Thank you for saying that.